Hello, welcome to Madrona's Pulse Teachings. I am Iris, and we are going to jump into this Aquarius full moon because we're in it. We're in it, folks. I'm posting this on Friday. You're going to move through your weekend, and then we're going to come into the full moon on the 19th. And oh my gosh, I think we need to start by saying this is a spectacular full moon. Okay? This is a full moon with Aquarius being our moon, square Uranus. This is as Uranian as we could have it right now. Uranian is big energy. Aquarius is big energy. It is radical energy. There is so much out there in the astro doom scrolling that could keep you going for hours with this full moon. And I think we really need to sit with the astrology and the archetypes and the cosmic conversations that is part of this cosmic symphony that is unfolding. And I have a video that's really going into the aspects of the archetypes that are speaking. I'm just going to weave a bit of a narrative here just to offer some support as we move through this weekend. And I want to go back to that word spectacular. Uranus is radical awakening energy. And awakening, despite what social media memes out there have, and despite what those videos, when we try and watch YouTube videos like this, are selling us from some spiritual guru person who's going to tell us how easy it is to manifest our millions, your awakening is not easy. It is not supposed to be easy. It is part of why we come here. And Uranus is the archetype, and Uranus is speaking so loudly in this full moon that, especially when it's in Taurus, literally churns up the ground, whether that is the literal ground or it's the ground that we've built our life on, because that is also Taurus. And it disrupts it so that we can be liberated into a new state, so that we can be uprooted and plant roots somewhere else, whether that is physically being uprooted, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, all of the above. That's part of Uranus in Taurus, is doing some of that uprooting in different levels so that we can be rooted and grow into new ways. And this is a full moon that's wanting to make us very aware of parts in our life where we most likely have some room to grow, have some room to break free, have some room to go a little bit radical in ways that a younger version of yourself probably wouldn't have expected. You're going to go a little bit radical. All the more reason to do it. And all the more reason to enjoy it, because the sun is in Leo and the sun is conjunct Vesta, and that is healing heart energy. And they're also conjunct Mercury retrograde. And this weekend, as we pass and we move into the full moon, Mercury is going to square that Uranus in its exact conversation. So this weekend is very important for what's unfolding and deepening on Monday, because Mercury is retrograde, talking to that higher octave Uranus that's related to Mercury, opening up for insights. We really want to meet this weekend and this full moon opening up for insights, embracing the Gemini energy that's present with Mars and Jupiter, and being curious, witnessing ourselves potentially getting triggered, witnessing ourselves potentially getting curious, witnessing ourselves engaging with the co-creative energies that we're part of, just witnessing and opening up to reflection. Because by opening into reflection, by becoming curious, we create space to receive messages. And Mercury retrograde is so important during this full moon, during the weekend that's taking us up to it. It's important because it's talking to Uranus. It's important because it's conjuncting the sun. It's important because it is ruling Jupiter and Mars as they are conjunct and squaring Saturn and Venus when we get to our full moon. Mercury retrograde is a leader in this energy. And Mercury retrograde means it's time to reflect. And there's something deeply personal about this. Okay, so on the one hand, we can look at Aquarius, and this full moon itself could be read in terms of collective energies. That's certainly happening, and a lot of astrologers talking about the states and politics that are going on. And yet when we work with it on our individual journeys, it's deeply personal. There is something healing. That is our Vesta conjunct Sun. And there is something that wants to be witnessed within us. And that could run deep. And here it's totally going to depend also on how this transiting chart talks to your natal chart. But that's going to show us places in our life where this energy is wanting to come through. It's going to show us where there might be some room for us to break free of older versions of ourselves. And this is literally to come into new embodied consciousness. Uranus is consciousness. When it is in Taurus, it is all about embodied consciousness. This is potentially even new understandings of what embodiment is, of what earth wisdom is, of how it can lead us and co-create with us instead of taking a human-centric view, which puts humans at the center of everything, which is what humans like to do. Oh, did you see that hummingbird? Did you hear it? I hope you heard it. I heard it in my ear as I was talking about coming into these less human-centric. We had a hummingbird come chat with us. And Uranus is bringing these messages, and they could be coming through they most likely are coming through in our lives. And especially if this energy is talking to personal placements, it could also be bringing stuff up. If Saturn is talking to anything in your chart, Saturn is at 17 degrees of Pisces, and it is opposite Venus, and it is square Jupiter and Mars, who are in Gemini around Jupiter is at 17 degrees. Mars is a little ahead for the full moon. But, Saturn and Uranus could be pulling stuff up. So if they're talking to things in your chart, that is where we really want to be open. That is where we want to receive messages, open to them. They could come from dreams. They could come from an email out of the blue, connecting us to someone from what feels like a past life and probably is a past life, but they also played a role in this life. There could be a lot coming up, and there could be challenging stuff coming up. And if the challenging stuff is coming up with this astrology, it is coming up to be witnessed and released. And that's where you want to hold ritual for yourself. Full moon is a wonderful time to hold ritual, especially if that releasing of past gook, however that gook plays out, whether it's in our own vision of what we used to think about ourselves, of our own relationship with ourselves, if it's relational in the way that relationship also continues to play into how we think about ourselves, whatever it is, holding a ritual for ourselves. That can just be lighting a candle and saying a prayer and then blowing out the candle as we're ready to release. There's so many different wonderful ways of holding ritual for ourselves. But release. There's absolutely simultaneously deep releasing energy, and through the release, the radical breaking free, right? This is why awakening is never simple. And this is why Uranus is not simple. It is challenging because Uranus says there's a new way to be. There's a new embodiment to show in my life. And that way, the other reason it's complicated is because it breaks with mainstream status quo. It breaks with most of what it's represented in the media. It breaks with anything that's dominantly represented in celebrity culture, because celebrity culture is about maintaining actually a pretty meticulous media industry matrix that keeps a few people really, really, really wealthy and keeps the gaze focused on those people that are put up on pedestals. And this astrology is all about the inner gaze. This weekend, inner gaze. This week, even that Saturn talking to Gemini energy could be saying, take a little pause on the inundation of images and messages from media and sit with the heart that wants to open through healing with Vesta, and also allow an illumination of a part of us that is ready to break free. Now, that does not have to happen overnight. That can be a 5-year process of breaking free. It's definitely going to be a process that's talking to later in December when Saturn and Jupiter square each other again. And at that point, we're going to have Chiron in Aries back at 19 degrees, which is where we had an April solar eclipse. So remember, it's always part of bigger cycles. Whatever is going on right now is going to weave through in a non-linear fashion and emerge in a different way at a different time. And so especially if it feels stressful or it feels like the walls are coming in a little bit, firstly, breathing across the collarbones is a wonderful way to push back against those walls and create a bit of spaciousness. And remembering that this is a moment within a much bigger cycle. Things are going to change. And Uranus is all about change. And so as we come into this weekend, we can really, really work with Mercury retrograde, which is calling for reflection. And Mercury is so important because this weekend, Mercury retrograde is going to be in an exact square with Uranus. Then it's going to conjunct the sun. Then it's still going to be conjunct the sun for our full moon. And it's ruling that energy that's in Jupiter, that's in Gemini with Jupiter and Mars. So Mercury has a lot to say, and it has a lot to say about take a beat, pause, reflect on what is emerging so that we can witness and co-create with this spectacular energy so that we can feel, yes, I am ready to see this. I am ready to witness in myself, and I am ready to let it go. I am ready to honor the person that I was at a different stage in my life, and I am ready through that honoring. This energy is so potent. We are in the realm of astro witching, which is my favorite way to be, because we can alchemize with this energy. We can co-create, and we can literally shift timelines, because that is what Uranus and Aquarius support us to do. And by that, we can open up to a new consciousness that comes by accepting, yes, and seeing most likely a younger version of ourselves, of something that wasn't ready to break through at that point in time because we weren't ready, and honoring that that was wise, right? Not holding regret, not holding anger for younger versions of ourselves, forgiving, letting it go, acknowledging that here we are now. And as we come into this honest dialogue with ourselves, which is honest, is what Mercury retrograde is really wanting us to be with ourselves. Mercury retrograde right now is not about going out and using our voice super loud, and like if that has to happen, okay, it happens, and we do it with integrity. But the energy is about reflecting with ourselves right now, seeing what we witness. And then as consciousness opens, which is what Mercury, especially this weekend, talking to Uranus, and then a Uranus squaring the full moon in Aquarius, oh, there's consciousness opening. That's when we have opportunity for what we kind of refer to as like a timeline shift, where our consciousness shifts and our trajectory of our path literally shifts. And it is very possible as we come through this energy that we are moving on a different path. And that doesn't always look different on the outside, but it looks different and feels different on the inside. And then the outside starts to shift. Okay, so knowing that that supportive energy is here, and also knowing that the supportive awakening doesn't always feel supportive, doesn't always feel easy, but taking a beat and coming into that place of reflection and honoring that Vesta's conjunct the sun, and she is here to heal our inner heart space so that we can shine out for the sake of shining out the creative divine energy that's flowing through us. It's all happening. And so I want to leave it there with all that happening. And I am, of course, sending out blessings to you. I am journeying through it too, folks. I'm right here with you. And I will see you on the flip side. Be well.